In this video, we are going to be discussing angles. So, what is an angle? An angle is just the measure of the space between two intersecting lines, and angles are measured in degrees. So, if we look here, I've got these two intersecting lines, and this area between them, that's the angle, okay? We measure it in degrees. Like we could say this angle is maybe like 130 degrees. That's saying that that right there is 130 degrees. So that's all the angle is. It's a measure of the space between two intersecting lines. So there's 6 different types of angles, and they're all categorized by their angle measure, meaning how big is the angle. So we have the acute angles, and acute angles are angles that are less than 90 degrees. Right angles, which have a measure of exactly 90 degrees. Obtuse angles, which are greater than 90 but less than 180 degrees. Straight angles, which are exactly 180 degrees. Reflex angles that are greater than 180 degrees but less than 360. And a full rotation, which is a full 360 degrees. So, acute angles are less than 90, right angles are exactly 90, obtuse angles are between 90 and 180, straight angles are exactly 180 degrees, reflex angles are between 180 and 360, and a full rotation is exactly 360 degrees. So, I'd like you to take a second, this is example 1, and label each of the following angles as acute, right, obtuse, straight, or reflex. So take a second, try this, and then continue the video, and I'll give you the answers. Alright, so now that you've tried this, let's label each one of these angles. Well, this angle right here is exactly 90 degrees, which makes it a right angle. This angle is less than 90, so that makes it acute. This angle here is greater than 90. It's 135 degrees. It's greater than 90, but less than 180. So this is what we would call an obtuse angle. This angle is also less than 90 degrees, so this is an acute angle again. And this angle here, 270 degrees, is between 180 and 360, so we call that a reflex angle. All right, so that's all we have to do is we use the measure of the angles to figure out what type of angle they are. Now we also have angle pairs. This is where we're going to spend the most of our time. When two straight lines cross, they form several different pairs of angles. We're going to go through, we're going to talk about each of these 4 types: adjacent, vertical, complementary, and supplementary. But it's pretty easy to show you that if I wanted to show you what adjacent angles are, those are just angles that are next to each other. Easy enough. And vertical angles are angles that are across from each other. So adjacent are next to each other, vertical are across from each other. We're going to go through some of the properties of these right now. So first we're going to talk about vertical angles. So vertical angles are across from each other and they are equal. So example here, A and B, this angle here, I'll put this little angle measure, this angle here equals this angle measure here. So if I told you, for example, that this was 75 degrees, well then this is also 75 degrees. Right? That would make this one 105 degrees, and then this one's 105 degrees. So angles that are directly across from each other when two lines intersect are called vertical angles, and they're equal to each other. So let's go ahead and try some problems with these. Example 2 says to find the value of x in each problem below. So if we look here, we've got vertical angles here because these two angles are right across from each other. So I know that this angle equals this angle. So I can set up the equation 74 equals 2x. So now I want to figure out what x is. So I'm just going to divide both sides by 2. And I get 37 equals x. So now we can check our work. If I do 2 times 37, that gives me 74. So this is 74 degrees, and this is 74 degrees. All right, so the way we do this, we simply set up an equation. Because we know these two things are equal, we set them equal to each other and solve. All right, now over here we have a similar problem. 2x and 103 plus x degrees. These two angles are vertical, which means they're equal, so I can set up my equation. 2x equals 103 plus x. So now I just need to solve my equation. Well, I want to get all my variables on one side, so subtract x on both sides. 2x minus x is just x. X equals 103 degrees. So, or x equals 103. Right. So, what does this angle measure? Well, if x is 103, then 2x, sorry, I just lost my place of what I was doing. X is 103, so 103 plus x, this is not a very good problem. But we're not going to worry about what these angle measures are at this point. But you see the idea that we can set these things equal to each other and solve for our missing variable. All right, adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are just angles that are next to each other. And they share a vertex, that's a point, and a side. So this angle here, if I call this, for example, angle 1, and this is angle 2, angles 1 and 2 are adjacent. And we're going to talk about a couple different types of adjacent angles, all right? Because there aren't any properties of just in general adjacent. There are special types of adjacent angles that have properties, and we're going to talk about them. So our first set of adjacent angles that are special that we're going to talk about are complementary angles. So complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. They add up to form a right angle. So for example, here I have a right angle. This angle is 50 degrees. This angle is 40 degrees. 50 plus 40 equals 90. All right, we'll always be able to tell they form a right angle because right angles, we always draw this little box in here to show this is a right angle. So complementary angles always add to 90 degrees. So before we move on to some more advanced examples, let's just look. Say I gave you this right angle, I drew this, I said that this was 70 degrees. What would this angle be? If I asked you to figure out what this angle here is, I know they form 90 degrees. This one's 70, what would this be? Well, the answer is 20. Simply did 90 minus 70 equals 20. And that's it. That's all we have to do. So let's take a look at some examples of these. All right, I want to find the missing angle in each one of these problems below. Well, let's take a look at this one. I have A and 30 degrees. So I need to figure out what is this angle measure here. Well, I know that A plus 30 equals 90 because this is a right angle. So this angle here plus this angle here has to equal 90 degrees. So A plus 30 equals 90. Subtract 30 on both sides. A equals 60 degrees. All right? So A equals 60 degrees. All I did, set up my equation, solve for my missing variable. Now we can do the same thing over here. All right, this one looks a little more complicated, but it's really the same thing. I've got this angle measure here, which is 3x plus 10. I have this angle measure here, which is 68 degrees. And because they form a right angle, I know that if I add these two things together, I'll get 90 degrees. All right, so let's solve for x. First, I want to combine my like terms. 3x plus 78 equals 90. 10 plus 68 is 78. Subtract 78 on both sides. I get 3x equals 12. So x equals 4. Divide both sides by 3. So now I know x equals 4. That's not what the problem's asking us. The problem is asking us, what is this missing angle? Well, to find the missing angle, we simply say, well, 3 times 4 plus 10, because this is 3x plus 10. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 10 is 22 degrees, which is the answer. All right, but to find x, all we did, we took this angle measure plus this angle measure, set them equal to 90 degrees. All right, our final angle pair that we're going to talk about are what are called supplementary angles. Now, supplementary angles add to form a straight line, which means their angle measure adds up to 90 or 180 degrees. So supplementary angles add to 180 degrees. So here I've got angle A and angle B, and I know angle A plus angle B equals 180 degrees. Here's another example with some numbers in it. I've got 40 degrees and 140 degrees. 140 plus 40, 0 plus 0 is 0, 4 plus 4 is 8, 1 plus nothing is 1, 180 degrees. So supplementary angles form a straight line, which means they add to 180 degrees. So let's find the missing angle in each one of these problems. All right, we know that these two angles are supplementary, so I can say that x plus 38 equals 180. To find out what x is, I simply subtract 38 on both sides. 38. I get x equals 142. That's a 2. All right, so all I did, add these things together, set that equal to 180 degrees, subtracted 38 on both sides, got 142. All right, let's do a similar thing over here. These two angles are supplementary, so I'm going to add them together. 5x plus, or not plus, 5x minus 18 plus 4x plus 45, and set that equal to 180 degrees. I can get rid of these parentheses, they don't really mean anything. 5x minus 18 plus 4x plus 45 equals 180. Now I need to combine my like terms. 5x plus 4x is 9x. Negative 18 plus 45 is plus 27. Subtract 27 on both sides. 9x equals 153. Divide both sides by 9. Let's see. I don't know that off the top of my head. Grab the calculator. 153 divided by 9 is 17. So I get x equals 17. Now the question didn't ask me what x is. The question asked me what are these angles. So now I need to figure that out. So this angle here, I can say that's 5 times 17 minus 18. Okay? 5 times 17 is 185. Minus, well, that's not right. That's not right at all. It's 85. 5 times 17 is 85. Minus 18, 67 degrees. So this is 67 degrees. Now the other one, I could figure out, I could plug in 17 for x and figure it out, or I know that these two angles have to add to 180, so I can just do 180 minus 67, which gives me 113 degrees, which goes over here. Now I could work that all the way out. I could say 4 times 17 plus 45. 4 times 17, 68. 68 plus 45 is 113 degrees. So you can see that all I need to do, add these two things together to 180, figure out what x is, then plug x into each one of these to find my missing angles. Now, let's just really quickly write out the rules so that we make sure we know these. All right? So, vertical angles. Vertical angles. This is the angle sign. So vertical angles. A equals B, meaning here's angle A, here's angle B, they're across from each other, they equal each other. Complementary angles. A plus B equals 90 degrees. So I've got a right angle. I split it. Here's A, here's B. These two angles add to equal 90. And finally, supplementary. Oh, I want to do that in orange, not blue. Supplementary angles. A plus B equals 180 degrees. Got a straight line, split it like that. Here's A, here's B. Add these two things together, we get 180 degrees. These are the angle pairs that you need to make sure you know and know how to use those properties. So here is your try it problem for today. You need to figure out the values of x, y, and z in this problem. So, just as a hint, think about what you've got going here. This right here, that angle is a right angle. It's 90 degrees. So that should help you figure out what z is, which should help you figure out what x is, which should help you figure out what y is. So, using the properties of vertical, complementary, and supplementary angles, you need to figure out x, y, and z.